Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actionable advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. How are we doing, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. And if this is your first one, thank you so much for being here. It is a great one to be on. This podcast really keeps me learning. and I'll tell you why. I was chatting with our guest today. We chat often, Courtney Donilon from Aisle Planner. And she was talking about tech stacks. And so I said, well, what's that? Well, what is a tech stack? And so that's what Courtney is going to come on to talk with us about today. Choosing the right tech stack as an event pro without losing your mind. Because already when I'm thinking tools and funnels and systems, oh my, I'm already overwhelmed, right? So this is why I need people who understand tech to explain these things in a really easy to follow and tangible way. And so often on the podcast, you'll probably hear me saying to guests, now there's somebody listening who's going to be thinking XYZ. That's me. I'm the person thinking it. And that's why I ask so many questions. So if you've ever signed up for a tool like we've had featured on the show before, Rock, Paper, Coin, Honeybook, or Aisle Planner, and thought, wait, but this is great, but it doesn't do email, or this one does project timelines, but it doesn't have texting to clients, then this episode on tech stacks is for you. We're going to be talking about how to build a full tech ecosystem that works together, saves you time, and supports your business goals, not just today, but long term. And so to do that, we have Courtney Donilon, the Director of Sales and Marketing at Aisle Planner Pro, a comprehensive sales and event planning platform for event pros. By the way, guys, if you go to idoweddingmarketing.com and hit the resources tab, you will have Aisle Planner's best offer right now for new members. So you're going to want to check that out. Courtney has booked and planned hundreds of events from the venue, hotel, and rentals decor side of the business. Her home base is in Austin, Texas, and she's thrilled to combine her business background with her passion for the events industry. She spends her days helping event pros learn how to streamline their processes and prioritizes creating a community of support, education, and empowerment. When she's not trying to make the event world a better place, she loves to hike, travel, ski, read, and try new restaurants. That's not the only reason why Courtney and I get along. We have worked together, and Courtney and I have worked together through seasons of difficulty in our lives that coincided with seasons of stress in our business. And Courtney is somebody who never lost her kindness, never lost her cool, and that is something I really respect about her. So when she says she can help you as an event pro choose the right tech stack without losing your mind, it's that without losing your mind piece that I really respect and value about Courtney. And I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her today as well as I do. So let's get to it. Courtney, this has been a long time in the making for us. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, I'm so excited. Of course, I'm a huge fan of yours. I have been listening to your podcast for a long time. So very excited to be a guest and hopefully share some good insights. I think your podcast is so great because you have people on that really cover actionable things. And that's something I know, like podcasts are great, education is great, but sometimes you just want to walk away with, I need a checkbox. I need a to-do list. So hopefully we can kind of do that today about a subject that isn't always the most exciting, I feel, but I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
mean,
exciting,
when I hear tech stack, I already go, okay, it said tech in it. I can't do that. I don't know.
yeah, did you fall asleep? That's yeah.
So tell me, Courtney, what is a tech stack?
Yes, it's funny because even when I started at Aisle Planner, our team, our leaders would always kind of say, tech stack. And I'm coming in like, what is a tech stack? And it's hilarious because everyone has a tech stack. Every job I've had a tech stack. But it's just this term I think that is used in the tech industry that if you're in weddings and events, you're like, what? So, so it's really just the set of digital tools and software that you use. So we think of it like a toolkit. So I don't know. I'm thinking about this analogy and I'm laughing because I don't build anything, but my analogy was it's a toolkit, like your hammers and your screwdrivers. But I've also heard it compared to like cooking. So maybe it's your recipes and your mixer and like that kind of thing. So maybe we'll go with that. For those of you who maybe bake but don't hammer things up on the wall. But yeah, like you probably, like I said, you have a tech stack. You probably use at a minimum, an email suite or Google Drive or Microsoft. You're probably using most of you some platform for some element of design, even if you're not a designer, even if you're a planner, or if you're
MS
using
Paint, does that count?
yes, exactly. I know probably I like the majority of us probably all use Canva in some sense. Even if yeah, spreadsheets, email, like that is your tech stack. So a tech stack is just your software and tools that you're using. Now, I think the further you get in your business, or if you're starting your business now and you want to be ahead of the game and set up for success, really investing in the right tech stack for you and your business is kind of why we talk about tech stack and how important it is because it can really be such a game changer. It's just sort of an afterthought, I feel like a lot of the time. Or I'm 2 years into my business and I'm drowning. I desperately need something to fix this. And that's when it's sort of like, well, a tech stack isn't necessarily like the band-aid here. Like it's really it's an investment in all of the tools and things that you need to be successful. But yeah, I like to just start with defining that because again, it's a tech term, not used in the wedding and events industry, but everyone has a tech stack and everyone should really be thinking about how they are using tech to help them, not to hinder them. So
So what should come first, your systems or your tech stack?
um so this is an interesting question because I also think systems can be a confusing term. So I think a system can mean like aisle planner is a
Mhm.
system, but also a system could be a like interchange with the word process. So I guess let's think about it like you have your process and maybe your workflow. And that to me is, let's think about this like steps. Step one, step two, step three, step four. Getting from point A to point B or point F or whatever that may be. So you have your systems or your tools from a software side that can help you implement your process and your workflow. So you basically start off with something that sort of triggers everything that you need to do, and then you have an end point. And so let's even use this example of you have a new lead, an inquiry that's reaching out to you for your business, whether or not you're a venue or a planner or a florist. And from that point through getting them to sign a contract, there's all of these steps. And then from signed contract to day of event, there's all these steps. And within those, there's lots of different processes and workflows, but your systems will help you actually keep track, stay streamlined, stay efficient. And I think the biggest thing is really reducing mental load and decision fatigue because if you're constantly trying to put your, like, again, the example I just gave is like one client. Everyone's dealing with tons of potential clients, current clients, wedding this weekend and 6 weddings in the next few weeks, right? Plus people inquiring with you at the same time. So every day you wake up and you start your day, but it's what do I do today? And it's so many, and you're having to sort of dig back in your brain. So systems are really meant to kind of take a lot of that work out off of you, to where it should be pretty clear what you need to do that day and for who. And that's just sort of, I think, one example. And then the other thinking again about what systems can do for you, it's really about a lot of times too automating repetitive tasks. So, for example, again, let's take someone's ready to sign a contract. Well, so you have a contract template and you have an email or something that you need to send to the client. Those are things that you do every time you book a new client. Well, if you're writing out a contract, which I doubt most people are doing this, but if you're writing out a contract from scratch or writing an email from scratch every single time, it gets really old really fast. You're spending a lot of time doing things that you could be able to do it much faster. So you're saving time with things that are already just kind of done and ready for you. You're reducing that decision fatigue, what do I do next? And I think it also really helps with teams and collaboration. And if, I know in the events industry, a lot of us are solopreneurs or, maybe there's two of you, but even if there are two or eventually three or five or more, it's really tough to come into a new place or to bring on someone to your environment if you don't have anything systemized. So if everything is in your head, which again, I know a lot of us operate that way, it's just really doing yourself and your team a disservice. So it's getting everything out on paper. It's getting everything, not literally, figuratively, on paper, documented, and really helping make sure that, again, you're not just overwhelmed and exhausted. We hear all the time, something I've talked about in other scenarios, that, burnout and overwhelm is so common in this industry. And so much of the time, I'm not saying tech and systems can completely solve it, but it can really be a huge game changer in taking away a lot of the things that can overwhelm you. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. And I have seen, as you speak about somebody new coming in, right? And what I find is almost like the opposite, where I'm working with older businesses who are afraid to change their systems. And I'm talking about paper inquiries, no computer at the reception desk. I'm talking about old systems. So why is it so hard to adapt to new systems, and how can we overcome this?
Yeah, I think first of all, anytime we're doing something new and different, that's hard. I also know the reality of being in the middle of event season or the middle of, or maybe, maybe you had a team member and they've now left or they've quit. And sometimes sometimes it's not the right time. So I will say that. I think you have to decide when it's a good time to make a change. If you feel like, there is a better way, and 9 times out of 10, I do think there is a better way. If you are doing everything manually, I might even say 10 out of 10. But you have to be ready for it, because it is a commitment. It is time. Now, I will say there are really great resources out there who can help you. And I highly recommend, if you're ready to kind of revamp things and look at your systems, of course, like on the one hand, Aisle Planner, I feel like is a great fit for a lot of pros in the event industry and can do a lot of different things and kind of act as multiple pieces of your tech stack. However, we always advocate for, every system isn't right for every person or every pro, but there are systems strategists out there. There are VAs out there, virtual assistants, who can look with you and look at your business, look at your workflows and help you. I think it's something I've also been really passionate and outspoken about the longer I'm here in this industry and at Aisle Planner is getting help, because I see it all the time, and I hear stories all the time of months and years go by of operating a certain way. And if you were to maybe step back and just invest a little bit financially, a little bit of time, you actually end up saving so much time and headaches, in the long road. So I know it's hard. Again, and I've been in the events world. I was in the events world for 7 years before this, so I totally get it. But it is about investing in yourself, your future self, and your business long term. So it's long-term thinking, not short-term. I got to get through this. I just got to get through this next thing. I don't have time. Again, wait till you can do that, but it really will make such a difference. You have to just make that decision and prioritize it. And like I said, there are resources. You can get help. You do not have to do it alone.
So how do we know what we need? Is there like a cheat sheet or what should we consider when we're trying to figure out what's already in our tech stack and what do we need to add to that?
Yeah, yeah. I actually, it's funny, I've been toying with the idea of creating a worksheet. I bet there's systems strategists out there who probably have something like this. But if you want, reach out to me after this and I'll do my best to put one together for anyone who's listening. But so to me, there's probably about 7 or 8 sort of categories. So I'm looking at when we talk about leads or inquiries, you need something to sort of manage those inquiries and keep you updated on where you are in the process with them. Have you had a tour? Have you had a consultation? Again, if you're guessing and wondering where you are, even in that process, that can be really tough. So, of course, we have your actual booking and contracting piece of that puzzle. So, contracts with e-sign, invoices, payment processing, that's sort of a separate category. We have project management. That's a big one. I kind of actually I look at project management and event planning separately because to me, project management is about what am I doing today? What are my tasks? And I have maybe 6 different clients I'm working on projects for today. So how do I know what to do each day? And how do I divvy out responsibilities to my team? So that's like a section. And then I would say event planning. And of course, depending on who you are, which vertical you're in, that might be if you're a planner, you're actually planning the whole entire thing and timelines and budgets and design, vendor management. If you're a florist, you're still planning. You're planning, the different arrangements and going back and forth with the client and timelines. There's team collaboration. So if you're on a team, how am I making sure that my team has what they need? Are we all following the same process? Are we all giving that same client experience to our clients and making sure that we're on the same page there? Then we have client communication. So team communication, client communication, sometimes that can kind of be in the same system, but that could be anything from just how you email and templates to sometimes it's texting, sometimes it's setting up, I think I'd say it's probably most starting to get most commonly used with venues. So if you're a venue, you might want to set up a texting platform. So that might be a huge game changer for you. And then I think the last one is really about kind of let's look at it as kind of like your business management. So your reporting, your analytics, your source of truth. So you want to be able to pull data on your business. And there's other things too with that. I'd say like even accounting, like that's going to be a whole separate thing, but really looking at your business, your numbers, your data, keeping everything in one place. So I just said a lot of different things and a worksheet definitely I think could be helpful for someone. And this isn't even like the most comprehensive list. I just think, if you're looking at one piece of this, when you're looking at a system, it is eventually going to be, I think, not enough. So again, that's where this term tech stack comes in because not to say you need, again, a separate system for each one of these things, but if you're not thinking about how all of these things are being executed, are they looking cohesive to the client? Are they providing the same experience? Are they getting you the information that you need? Is your team on the same page? All of this matters. So we try to really think about it as like this foundation really for everything that you do.
So let's take that because it was a lot, right? And can you give me more like tangible examples of what an actual tech stack looks like and not in terms of what it's doing, but of the actual items?
Yeah, so I think, I mentioned at the beginning, like a very simple tech stack could be just maybe Google Suite and Canva, and maybe that's about
Right,
it.
like our beginner's guide and
Yeah,
Google, yeah,
Google
Google
email calendar
and
and
whatever our
Canva.
email comes with your website, you know what I mean? That email
Right,
marketing.
right, exactly. So let's say that's like your sort of beginner one. So then ultimately, you might end up with, some folks might have, I really don't think anybody has one. I mean, to hear all in one, I don't think even aisle planner, which for a long time we were even saying all in one, but it's so commonplace out there. There's no all in one. So I don't think you can have one, but let's say generally speaking, aisle planner could act as your leads and, lead management and booking management. It can be your project management, it can be your event planning, it can be your team and client communication. So Aisle Planner could check off a lot of those boxes. But let's kind of take a step back. If, a lot of other folks out there might be using, let's say, Honeybook or Dubsado as your CRM and kind of booking management piece. You might have the desire to set up an email marketing or email nurture sequence, which if you don't know what that means or that term means, so if you have a new lead and you're working with them and you've met with them, but they're not sure, about you yet, they're looking at different options. Usually most of us, we will check in, we will send an email and say, hey, just, we had a site tour last week or a consultation last week. What did you think? Do you want to book with me? And just kidding, you wouldn't say it like that. But instead of that, you could actually set up an email marketing sequence where that person gets entered into this sequence and they will then get these different emails that maybe are a little bit prettier, have a little bit more valuable content. Maybe it's a little bit like, here's something you might not know about our venue or our services. So that's something that typically can't be done in a CRM. There's not, from my knowledge, too many CRMs that also offer true email marketing, nurture sequences. So that can kind of be its own little category when it comes to marketing. You can connect a lot of CRMs with email marketing systems. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but no, it can be done. Let's say for design, we talked about Canva, but then, a lot of designers also use maybe just Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. Layouts, you might be using, again, Aisle Planner, but there's Prism, Mary, Social Tables, team collaboration, internal operations. Let's say, again, Aisle Planner, it does offer that, but there might be Monday.com is one that a lot of folks use, or Asana, maybe Notion. So I'm listing out a lot of things, but so like let's give an example here of a sample tech stack might be, let's say Aisle Planner, or let's say some folks use Honeybook. Maybe they're grandfathered in for some reason. I'll say, look at Aisle Planner though anyway. But let's say you're using Honeybook and then Aisle Planner, and then maybe you also use Flowdesk for email marketing, and let's say you're using Aisle Planner for layouts, and then Canva. So maybe it's like those 5. So that's kind of like what I would say is an example tech stack. And like I said, you can have more than that, you can have less than that, and there's no right or wrong. It's all about what are your goals and how are you looking at each one of those and making sure that you're optimizing them, that you're not, you don't want to sign up for something that is doing the same thing as something else, and then you're kind of doing the same thing twice. So I think the most challenging thing is most people start with one thing in that moment and don't necessarily know how to sort of add and supplement. But again, I'd say that's where taking that time to explore, to talk to a specialist, maybe work with a consultant, could just be so monumental. And there's a lot of other, just I should say this too, business coaches. Terica, I know, is a wonderful example. Planners Vault. There's so many out there that they're not system specialists, but they can look at your business and they'll know enough to also be able to kind of give you some ideas, I think, for how to get your tech in place.
Yeah, how do we know we even need to be making this decision? For example, I'm one of these people, and it's like, listeners, do as we say, not as I do, where it's like, I've got like the Google Drive and Google Sheets, and there's probably a lot I need that would make my life easier, but here I am just doing it harder. How does somebody kind of realize there's another way?
That's such a great question. And I've gone through this myself. I went through this earlier this year, actually. So my job right now at Aisle Planner is very different. Of course, I'm not booking events anymore the way I used to. So we use some different systems, but I've never felt, and this is funny to share this, but I've never felt like the job itself was too overwhelming, but I was getting really overwhelmed with this list that sort of never ended of ideas and things that my team and I would talk about. And I always called it the abyss. It would just go into the abyss. And I didn't ever like have a way to really track and understand how to get to some of these things in the time that I wanted or needed. And I just felt this it's like a different kind of stress. It's this stress of this like unknown that just kind of eats at you. And again, I know I'm in a little different boat than those in the events world, but I feel like at some point you just, for me, it's like I would just sit there and I would be looking at the same things over and over, and I could tell that my brain just wasn't even processing because of like overwhelm and almost what is that? Analysis paralysis. Like I couldn't decide what to do and when, um, and it was so interesting. And I ended up trying out a software that now my team and I use, and it's a pretty cool. It's also like time management, but it just helps me. Like I was talking about decision fatigue earlier, but it just takes away my decision fatigue, and it's amazing because my workload hasn't changed, but my mindset and my stress when it comes to sort of like keeping on top of things, I have so much confidence. I'm not going to forget about something. I'm not going to lose something because I know exactly where everything lives and it's categorized and it's amazing. So that's just my own, I guess, example. But I think it's just sort of asking yourself, am I doing the same thing over and over and over? That feels like a not a waste of time, but could I be spending my time doing something to grow my business or to move the needle? Or am I just spending time, not handwriting, but typing the same things over and over and over? And how, how stressed are you and what are you stressed about? Are you stressed because, actually, I was going to say, are you stressed because of like an emotional component with dealing with wedding clients? But honestly, sometimes because we're stressed with our systems and our processes, we let the emotional environment we're around with wedding and emotional clients actually probably sometimes that can lead us to snap. So my thing is actually, if you want to be able to use your emotional energy on your clients and be able to be the, voice of reason and the guide that they need, getting that back end cleaned up, the back end stuff and the workflows can actually really help with that. So I just think everybody comes to a point where they're like, does not seem like this is, a good use of my time. This does not seem like what I should be doing. And like I said, it's not always right away. It might be 2 years into your business or 4 years into your business. But it'll come and you'll be like, this is no, I need to make a change.
Can you speak directly to the stressed out business owner listening to this about how a CRM, and let's, for the sake of this episode, just use Aisle Planner as the example, about how Aisle Planner will and can eliminate that stress?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the most common scenario I hear when there's when someone new is coming to us that isn't, let's just say that isn't using a CRM. So that's who I'm going to mostly talk to here. So you're getting an inquiry from your website, or maybe you were referred to someone and you're getting that in your email, and then you are, sending them something through your email, and then everything is just an email. So it ends up being very stressed out because yes, we can search in our email, but all of those different people, those different leads, those different potential clients, sort of just get lost. And again, let's call it the abyss. It's like everything just lives in the abyss. And so you can get through that. You can, obviously, plenty of people do it. Um, but I also think about it like I think two things, like what you could do in, you know, 10 minutes is probably taking you like an hour. If you are continuing to do everything manually and find that email, reread it and figure out what did I need to do with that? What did they say? Maybe you have your notes, from your meetings in different places and you have to find that. So it's just things just take a lot longer. Um, and you also might be missing out on business. I had an account review call earlier today with someone who has just started with Aisle Planner and they're doing great, but they even realized, even with Aisle Planner, because they hadn't set up some of the task reminders yet, they'd had a tour several days ago and were supposed to send over a contract and hadn't done it yet. And so not to say they're going to lose that business, but it's just one of those things where the less you have set up for you to kind of, check, check, check. Okay, I met with them. I know exactly at a glance. I know what happened. I know what my notes are. I know where we are in the process. I can click this button and send a contract. I mean, it just takes so much pressure off. You know that you're going to be consistent in how you respond. You know that you're not going to miss something, drop the ball. It's just a completely different experience. And like I said, it's really it's saving it's just saving a lot of time and a lot of brain power.
I think what surprised me the most, and maybe this is just because of the nature of my business, because I'm a service provider for wedding pros, I don't work with couples, but what surprised me was that CRMs like Aisle Planner Pro, it's a hub for your clients too, where your couples can be
Mhm.
on there, and that's where you're communicating with them. So it's not just a place for your team, but a place for your clients as well.
Right, exactly. And I was just thinking as you were kind of bringing up that next question, there are, let's say, for example, there are planners out there who they only take maybe a handful of weddings a year and they don't really get leads per se. It is word of mouth, like I said, they're only taking a few, maybe they're high end, whatever that looks like. So it may, I'm not saying they shouldn't use a CRM. I think everybody still needs a CRM to an extent for documentation purposes, but might not be nearly as concerned with my response time and all that. They might be way more concerned with, like you said, maybe it's that client experience, it's that communication and consistency and the aesthetic. So for that person, they might be really interested in those other things. So their tech stack might look completely different than someone else's tech stack. So yeah, I think the client communication and client portal aspect of IO Planner is really nice because it is something that I would say in a typical tech stack that's not always common I'd say like in a project management system or I'm trying to think of another example. I mean, there's layout platforms and different things that don't have that client, I think, aspect. So it is, or it can be a really nice value add, I think, for the services that you're providing when your clients can log into their own planning portal and be able to see quickly their layout, their seating chart, their budget, their notes, their resources that you're giving them as a planner. So again, it's that perception of you, what they're seeing and how they're experiencing working with you that can be another really great differentiator, which again, could you do without it? Yes. Um, you can just send them emails, and that's again nothing wrong with that. But again, thinking about kind of leveling up a little bit on what your client experiences, that can be a really cool and helpful part of your tech stack. So something to consider.
I can't be the only one who's already kind of getting a little overwhelmed with the idea that it's like multiple things, right?
Yes.
It's a tech stack. So maybe you have your primary thing like Aisle Planner, it does so much. We know it does the booking and planning and project management, but it doesn't do the email marketing. So does that mean I should just say to hell with it all? I'll just stay with
No,
what I'm doing.
Nina,
What,
no.
how do we stop the overwhelm of
Yes.
the integrations and all that's happening here?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. I really do feel like people look at tech and their systems as really just not as important as they are. Like I would say, and I don't know how many of you do maybe it's once a year, twice a year, maybe it's every quarter, kind of like business review. Like, gosh, back in the corporate world, we would call it like QBR, quarterly business review. Like you guys probably don't do that. But let's
We
say,
should.
yeah. Um, when you're looking at your business and you're looking at your financials and your planning, you should be looking at your tech stack. It's something that should be prioritized as much as I'd say almost anything else. Now, I don't think you have to do it once a quarter, so don't get me wrong. Maybe once a year, I think, and I'm only saying that because your business might change from year to year, where maybe this year you don't have a teammate, next year you do, or an employee. So if next year you're adding an employee, you might want to reassess what your tech stack looks like to make sure they have the same processes, they can jump right in. So again, do you need to do it constantly throughout the year? No. But it is, again, it's part of your business. It's part of your foundation of your business. It is not a sort of supplemental, like this is just a thing I need to do. I need this system for, I need a system to send contracts and invoices, and that's really all I need tech for. Again, could you get away with that? Of course. But I really do feel like if you want to think about the long-term success of your business, the thing is when you're switching tech platforms or if you're building out your tech stack, it sounds intimidating and overwhelming, but you're just doing it like the hardest part is just at the beginning. It's just like starting your business. Like it's a lot of work at the beginning, but then the idea is you're saving so much time throughout the rest of the year and every year to come, and so many headaches. So it can be overwhelming to get started, but like I said, I think it's just like build it into your process. Like I said, once a year, if you're doing a business review, look at your tech stack. Maybe again, you look at hiring a consultant or a business coach. And again, maybe it's not once a year, but once every couple years, and build that into what you're reviewing with them. And it's your tech along with your workflows, along with your maybe your team, like how your team is working together. Um, you're going to get out, I think, what you put in. And if you really want to be successful, I do think, you really should sort of build that into your long-term overarching plan for success. And then the other thing, I know we talk about this a lot. My team has mentioned this in other talks and things, but no one really thinks about their exit plan when they're getting into business. But as we know, especially in the wedding industry, there can be some turnover, there can be some changes, life happens. So you might want to end up, maybe you add on a partner, maybe you hand it over to someone in your family, maybe you want to sell. If you don't have everything from your business like really buttoned up as far as in a system with documented processes and workflows and templates, it's going to be much harder. So, and I'll tell you this too, if you start to document all these things 10 years into your business instead of one or two, that's also going to be a lot tougher. So I think it's again, I thought of this recently and I need to figure out a better way to say it, but it's like thinking about your future self. Like think about your future self. Don't think so much about your current self. Like I know we're in the moment, but invest in your future self and invest in your future business. And that's what I think investing in your tech stack can really do.
What are some other values of a tech stack? I know we've mentioned a lot about kind of the time saving and the stress saving element of it, but what else is there?
Yeah, I would say consistency. It can, I mean, gosh, if we're sort of doing a lot of things manually, I mean, even when it comes to the way, that we even send out certain types of client communication, so it can really streamline a consistent experience, again, I think for your client. I think, again, just making sure that balls are not dropped. I mean, nothing is ever guaranteed, but for sure, the more you have, systems in place and automatic reminders and things, set up, you're much less likely to forget about things. And that is, there's no shame in forgetting about something. And there's really, I shouldn't say no shame in dropping the ball. We've all dropped the ball. Like we've all been there where we have too many events at once and something is forgotten, something is overlooked. And I'm not saying systems will completely solve that, but it definitely can help prevent a lot of that from happening. So I think that's also super important. And again, I think just, oh, this is another funny thing that we always say that sounds very cryptic, but like if I dropped dead tomorrow, my teammate could come in and pick up everything that I'm doing, and she'd be weeping, of course, but she could do it because it's all written out and documented, and we have this system that I talked about earlier. And I'm not saying that that's like a common thing, but if someone leaves, somebody's out on maternity leave, somebody's trying to finally take a hard-earned vacation, if your team is not going to be able to pick up the pieces, and like if your business needs you for every single thing all day, every day, like you're never going to be able to have a life. And so it's just kind of creating that redundancy so that other people can help you.
I loved how you mentioned it helps you from dropping the ball, because when I have invested in my business, it's really beyond me just investing in me. It's me investing in my clients. It's me going, I want them to have a better experience. I don't want to drop the ball on them again.
Right.
Like this felt horrible and I don't want to do that again.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, it's investing in their success and their day and their experience. Because right, it isn't just about your, your reputation and all that. It's, you want to make sure. I mean, if it's their wedding, it's the possible best day of their life. And so anything a system can do to just, I mean, we all, and that's the thing, I wanted to say this too. Everyone is doing all of these things anyway. Maybe not a full-on like email nurture program, but everyone has checklists. Everyone has a contract. Everyone is designing. Everyone is planning. You're doing these things. So you're not, the whole point of a system or a tech stack isn't to make you do something you weren't already doing. It's just taking what you're doing and putting it into a repeatable, streamlined process and software system so that you don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. So I kind of always forget to say that. I'm like, we're not trying to change the way that you're working. Like take this and make it your own. Don't, I think that happens a lot because I'll give some default templates and people always kind of look at it and I can tell their eyes and I'm like, you don't have to use this. Like you have your own checklist, put that in here. And so it's not changing what you're doing. It's about taking what you're doing and again, putting it into a repeatable, easy to use, someone can jump in, reliable, source of truth. So
Yeah, because like when I write, and I mean physically write on a notebook, my checklist, that means only I can see it. If I put my checklist into Slack with team members, then it means other people can see it. And
yeah.
if this checklist is something I'm doing every time I have a new client, then having these systems allow you to have that what you call the repeatable successes and kind of replicating what's working. So I really love that idea of it, that it's creating your stamp, your signature, your systems.
And quite frankly, I would say probably a solid majority, well, maybe not majority, but a solid percentage of people out there have a to-do list every time they have their clients, but it's in their head.
Oh God. Sorry,
Yeah.
you just made
I
me
mean,
think of my own and I'm like, no.
guilty. I mean, especially the first few years of doing events at my venue, there was no existing sort of list, and I just learned what to do every time. And I'm just like, I can't believe every time it was all just in my head, and I would just rely on my own memory. And I think people sometimes almost feel like, I don't know, maybe even like shame, like I shouldn't have to write all this out. I should just be able to do it and remember it. Like, what? No, we have too much going on. We have too many things going on. We are, again, like get it all written out. It's okay. It's okay to have reminders. It's okay. Like do not rely on your own memory. Like the busier you get and the more sometimes also too, the more thoughtful, intensive work and strategy you're doing, it's these little things and details are actually harder, but that means you're doing more strategic work, which is great. So don't beat yourself up if you can't remember these little details, just get them in a system. So
I'm going to get a little vulnerable here, but I know people listening will likely be able to relate. Every day, at the end of the day, my husband will ask how work was and everything, and I'll say I did a lot of work, but I still didn't do enough, or I wish I did more.
yes.
Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I also totally relate with that, or relate to that. And I think it's because, again, if there's something like, there's something that's like, it's like a serotonin boost or something when you like check things off.
Yes.
So it's really funny that you say that because I felt like that and my teammate, Laura, like feels like that for sure a lot, and she'll be okay with me saying this. And once we implemented this system that we use now, and we have these projects that we're able to sort of check off each day, it actually helps with that. So if you're able to, again, get things out in writing, get your tasks for the day, like everything is kind of just set up for you. I don't know. I think maybe that doesn't 100% solve what you're saying, but you'll start to feel like, oh yes, I actually did do this and this and this and this. I checked it off. I was able to, I can see, I mean, also, I will say this too, like a lot of things that just happen with through automations. So there's reminders that can be set up to be sent to your client for things like, please send me your final menu selections. Please send me you said you met with the DJ, please, confirm if they've been booked. You can have all those things that automatically got sent to your client, and you can see, I mean, you could actually log into Aisle Planner and see that the reminder got sent and that the client checked off that they did it, and you didn't even have to do anything. So
Right.
that's like an extra little serotonin boost. Like, okay, maybe I didn't do that, but look at all that happening. Like progress is being made. So I think it can just help to show visually and, through the act of like being able to check things off that you're doing more than you
Right.
think. Because it is hard to know, to feel like you've done enough when everything's again just sort of like obscure and in the abyss, as I call it.
Well, it sounds like it makes your list smaller, right? So
Yeah.
I can get more of a boost knowing that I only had three major projects on my list, and so I was able to do all three instead of when I have eight projects on my list. And even though I did the three most important things, I'm feeling bad because I missed the other five.
Right.
So if I have those other five kind of automated and replicated, then I can finally start feeling good about my three.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, and then, ultimately, I think everybody hopes to be able to hire on or, add people. And so if you can start to do double the work in the same amount of time, then that might allow you to, bring on someone else. So a lot of it is just, yeah, it's looking at like how much time are you spending and what are you really accomplishing and can we really find a way to, to improve that. So
Yeah. Can you speak about the investment side of this and when somebody might be able to decide they're ready for this sort of investment?
yeah, I think, it's one of the most common conversations that we have, especially I think in the wedding and events industry. It feels like every, dollar matters, and it does. But I think I'll just kind of give a similar little speech to what I said earlier. I think building in your tech stack to part of your operational budget as something that is as important as anything else is super important. If you aren't building that into your operational budget and all of a sudden you feel like you really need to add on some software and systems, but all of a sudden that's $40, $60, $100, whatever that looks like a month, of course that doesn't sound great. And you're gonna feel like, oh, I'll just try that next year or, So like I said, I know every dollar counts, but I think you look at something like if you book one more wedding because this didn't fall through the cracks, everything looked polished and cohesive, you had enough time to actually get back to them quickly and have a thoughtful conversation, and you weren't in a cranky mood because you couldn't remember this and this and this and this, and you book one more event that actually covers the cost of your system for a whole year. So it's all, I think, about how you look at it. And I think if enough people really feel like it's a priority for investment, just like anything else in their day-to-day budget, um, I definitely believe that you can find a way to do it. But again, it's a choice, it's a commitment, it's a viewpoint to say, I do think this is important. And, I feel like it's super important. I can see a difference. I've also used CRMs and project management systems for many years. And when I work with people who haven't used anything and I kind of hear what their day to day is like, it's just like, I don't know any better. So for me, it's like, oh my gosh, like no brainer because just again, the time you save and your sort of your sophistication in process and tools and things, not meaning you have to be sophisticated. You just will be perceived as sophisticated by your clients if you're using certain systems and you're on top of it and you're on top of your game and you're not super emotional and cranky. And I'm only saying that because I know I've been emotional and cranky when I'm like, I have too many things. It matters, and it matters in the clients that you're going to book and what they think about you. So
Yeah, and the reviews they're going to leave, and the reviews lead, if they're good, lead to your next booking. So it all works together.
yes.
And For IO Planner, we actually have for podcast listeners, we do have a discount code on the resources tab of my website. So right now that's for 15% off of 6 months. But for any tech stack or CRM you're interested in, get their email list, follow them, get in their world and hear about, they'll let you know when they're doing, their best deal. So stay on top of it and believe in yourself when it comes time to make that investment and commitment.
Oh, I like that. Yes, I think believe in yourself and believe in your ability to really reach that next level. I think if you really do believe in that and want to invest in yourself and your business, the learning curve, like you'll get through that. It's really for most of these systems, now there are systems out there that are very complex, but for most of these systems, I promise you, you can do it. And again, there's help out there. You don't have to try to do it alone. We're here to help. There are systems people. Reach out to me. I have some great resources. I know Nina knows some too. So we want you to succeed. And most of us cannot do everything by ourselves, can we?
Nope.
No, I can't.
So Courtney, do you have a morning routine?
A morning routine. On the weekdays, yes, mornings are very important to me because I have a lot of, as I'm getting older, I just have a lot of like physical things that I need to do. So I try to work out. I also try to walk, and I have a lot of PT exercises I have to do. So every morning I either take my son to kindergarten. Well, now he's going to be in first grade. And that's like super early at 7:15. And then I do all those things, or my husband takes him and I do all that first. But I probably spend about usually 2 hours in the morning on some form of like physical exercise. And if I don't do it in the morning, I won't do it. I've learned this about myself. So um, I'm sort of a morning person in that I wake up and I like do all these things, but I actually don't really start work until a little bit later than that, just because that's like my time. And that's why I love my role here, because it's
Yeah.
flexible, and my team's on the West Coast, so they're not around
Yep.
till 11 my time anyway. So works out great.
Well, I ask everyone this because I'm not a morning person.
Not a, yeah.
So what you may gauge, because even with you being on the West Coast, by the time I'm getting started, you're already started. So I've been asking everybody on this season of the podcast to hear more about their morning routine. And I've been learning a lot of things about just life and self-improvement through asking that question. And the other question I've been asking this season is, as a professional, and with IO Planner, you're an educator, but how do you keep your own education going?
Podcasts. Oh my gosh. And I listen. I go to Emerge Event Collective is a great one for online roundtables and networking and online kind of topics and things. So I just really try to listen and observe whenever I go to events on behalf of Aisle Planner. I really listen. I listen to all the speakers. I mean, it's just such a great opportunity. So I definitely try to stay as up to date as possible. And also just, again, I said this earlier, but like we can't do everything ourselves. And I have gotten so many great ideas. I have met, I mean, you through your podcast and my relationship with you, I've met an amazing woman recently and other people that are a systems strategist, Amy Gould. And if you're willing and you open yourself up to it, you can really solve a lot of your business problems, get great ideas, meet great people. So I'm definitely always very open and receptive of that as I'm going to events and listening to podcasts. I got this job through Aisle Planner through listening to a podcast, and I reached out to my manager and said, I heard you on a podcast. Are you guys hiring? And
That's amazing.
apparently that can work. So you never know.
That's amazing. And my podcast's best matchmaking story is now Aisle Planner and Amy Gould. Like, that has been
Great. I
so
know.
terrific. So
It's
terrific.
wonderful.
So Courtney, how can people follow you and Aisle Planner?
Yeah, so on Instagram, just Aisle Planner is the handle. You can always anybody can email me at any time. My email is just Courtney at aisleplanner.com. Very simple. COU, no K. Courtney Kardashian was not around when I was born, not to date myself, but okay there. Um, and yeah, on our website, just aisleplanner.com, you can start a trial and you know, I'm happy to talk with anybody. I'm not a full-on systems strategist, but I am happy to talk to anyone about systems, processes. We have a ton of resources and relationships and partnerships here at Aisle Planner. So we definitely pride ourselves on, you know, in this industry, trying to be an advocate for success and for great relationships. And we want to point you in the right direction. So even if Aisle Planner doesn't work out or doesn't make sense, we want to get you, you know, set up for success. So you can always reach out to me and I will do my best to chat with you about what might work for you. So.
Great. And we will have what Courtney mentioned in the show notes, as well as the resources for I Do Wedding Marketing podcast, which includes Aisle Planner and some other tech stack favorites. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to send Courtney a message. Let her know. We love when we get to hear from real people about what happened. And that's how you get those real relationships like Courtney and Amy created.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Courtney.
Oh, you're so welcome. I had a blast. I love working with you. And yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next Wedding Wednesday at the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast.